In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, all praise is due to Him. And may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His final messenger, Muhammad. Today we're going to talk about the great American Muslim, Malcolm X. May Allah have mercy upon his soul. One thing that is very unique about Malcolm X, when we're talking about the new Muslim experience, is that he went through certain challenges throughout his life. Early on, he lost his father when he was young because his father was outspoken about racism throughout the Midwest in the early 1920s and 30s. So the Ku Klux Klan, because they heard that there was someone speaking about these issues, they finally killed him because of what he was talking about, how he was expressing himself. So here you had his mother who was trying to raise over 8 children in the Midwest in the 1930s, in the Great Depression era, where it was very difficult. It played such a toll on her mentally that she went to a mental hospital. In that time period, he found his sister who was living in Boston to take care of him because he didn't have a father nor a mother at that time. So when he went to Boston, with the environment that he just left, of not having parents, breaking away from his siblings, he was basically living on his own. So in that time period where people were trying to dodge the army, so they were trying to find different methods to stay busy, many of these young men in that time, especially in the ghettos of America, will get into the life of crime. So Malcolm X, in the early 40s, he, being someone who's young in his teenage years, he got around people who were older than him that were living that type of hustler lifestyle, where it attracted him. And those older men who were around him were like his older brothers or like father figures to him. So for about a 5-year period, he was selling drugs, he was burglarizing people, he was being a menace to society, to the point where finally he was sent to jail. So when he went to jail, he had time to reflect upon those things that he did to others and to himself. He had time to reflect upon his youth, how he grew up. And in that process of thinking, he started to read more. He started to open up to different types of conversations that were just outside of the hustler lifestyle. And in that time period, he came across his brothers and sisters who had joined a group called the Nation of Islam. And the Nation of Islam was preaching to uplift the African American, that they could do for themselves, that they could have their own businesses, that they could have a healthy lifestyle. They didn't need drugs or alcohol, that they can treat each other, meaning men and women, with respect, which was a new message in America at that time. So this attracted Malcolm to wanting to uplift himself out of that mindset of just someone who was just a hustler on the streets. So finally, after hearing that message through his siblings, he joined the Nation of Islam. So when he got out of jail, he was very energetic, wanting to go out and inform the African American about this message, to the point where he went up the ranks, where he became the national minister for the Nation of Islam. And he was the reason why many of the temples that we still see to this day opening up all around America. He either has something to do with it or assisted someone opening up a new temple in America dealing with the message of the Nation of Islam. But after a while, the message of the black man being God, or like a God, and the white man being the devil, it started to play a certain type of role on Malcolm X, in the sense that he would go and talk to other people that were white. He noticed that they weren't, quote unquote, acting like white devils. They were very intellectual when he would talk to news reporters, teachers, professors, activists. He started to notice that this message wasn't in accordance to what he was taught. And after a while, and seeing that this message wasn't something that was bringing people together, it wasn't a cohesive message of bringing people together, he started to learn more about, quote unquote, the Orthodox Islam, or what we call that today. So finally, he had the opportunity to go and do the fifth pillar of Islam, which was make the pilgrimage to Mecca. And when he went to Mecca, he had the opportunity to see people who were white, black, Chinese, from all over the world worshiping one God. It was all about worshiping God alone without any partners, and not overpraising any other human being or any race or tribe or what have you. So when he came back to America after performing the pilgrimage, I really want people to think about this. This was in the 1960s, in the mid 1960s, right after the Civil Rights Act being signed, where segregation was still being preached in certain parts of America. Here, Malcolm X wasn't talking about equality for the African American. That was of his messages that he brought out to the people. But he was stating the name Islam to America, how Islam will bring people together, that people should accept Islam. It would bring more brotherhood in America. Imagine that environment in the 1960s. Already African Americans asking for their rights. They want to, they were told that they are equal now, all around the United States. But here came something new, where someone is stating that the religion that will bring America more of a true brotherhood, bringing people together, is this religion of Islam. So imagine him preaching this message, which was opposite of what he was teaching just a few months ago, a few years before that, where he was talking about black man being God and the white man being the devil, and that African Americans should live in a separate state and white people should live in no separate state. Now he was preaching something completely different, because he went to see Islam in a different light in Mecca, where Allah put that in his heart and took that racism out of his heart. Finally, because of his split with the Nation of Islam, there were people who became jealous of the attention that he was gaining, because he was preaching not only civil rights for the African American, but also human rights. And he was preaching, again, repeating the point of bringing people together through the religion of Al-Islam. And in February of 1965, he was assassinated during a talk that he was given in Harlem. But him dying didn't mean that his legacy died with him. And we still see to this day issues of racism happening in our society. And those who truly stand up to justice will make a difference in America, just like Malcolm stood up for justice in his time period. So we need to see more people implementing that spirit of Malcolm, as people are still doing it to this day, who are wanting to bring a change within America that people thought was changing in the 60s when he was alive, that still people are struggling with up to this very day. And one other amazing part, and I'll say it's the last thing that I'll mention, is that Malcolm X, may Allah have mercy on his soul, was the first iconic Sunni American Muslim in our history. He was someone who was very open about his faith. He was someone who didn't hide who he was. He was very proud about being Muslim, and he also didn't shy away and hide the mistakes that he made in the past. So for a new Muslim, what they can benefit from that aspect is you're going to make mistakes. We all do. But what makes a great person is his ability to overcome that mistake, being humbled by it, knowing that God will make a way for them to improve on a daily, weekly, and yearly basis. So it's a constant change that we're going to go through, but with learning, we'll see how we'll be able to benefit not only ourselves and our families, but society. Assalamu alaikum.